that? There we go. Got the audio working. Welcome everybody to another IC Live, Wednesday, January 24th. I think we're on day 8. Day 8 of 75 lives. So, if you're just joining us, we're focusing on helping entrepreneurs thrive in their business, in their personal life, in their family's faith. And we're going live 75 days, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time. And we've been in a little bit of a rhythm, and I think we may maintain this to create a little continuity. Where Mondays we're kind of talking a little bit more like personal growth, personal development stuff. Tuesdays has been a little bit more focused on new businesses, starting businesses, business principles. Wednesdays we'll get into more like deeper and more advanced like marketing, sales strategies. Thursdays, when I get back from Tampa, I'm in Tampa right now, I think we're going to start adding like testimonials and interviews, things like that on Thursdays. And then Friday is going to be more faith-based, where I get to share a little bit of what I believe the Bible says about us being successful entrepreneurs and why and how we can grab those principles and grab hold of these eternal truths to maximize our business, but to also make the most impact for now and in eternity. So thank you guys for joining. If you're shoot a comment. I can't see in my little thing unless you drop a comment. Love to see who's watching. Just love to see who's out there. Got any questions? Feel free to drop them in there. Braden's got something to share.
Hey guys, welcome back, and make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell for notifications.
Excellent. Thank you so much, son. Help us out. Part of what we're doing with this 75 days is kind of like this kicking inconsistency in the teeth. Myself personally, like I'm in Tampa, I'm at a conference. Started getting a little under the weather yesterday, even though I don't want to agree with that. But, things happen. There's always excuses for why you can't go live or whatever your thing is, right? What's the thing that you should be consistently approaching? What are the things that you need to do on a regular basis to be successful? And that's the thing. Like, you think about it in your relationships, your body, your business, it's more about like what you do on a daily basis and then this big moment where, I'm successful or I'm not successful. We talked a lot about that on day one. Success is not like an event. It's not like, poof, you're successful. This cataclysmic thing happened and now I'm a success or I'm a failure. Overnight successes are very rarely overnight, right? It only took 10 years to become an overnight success kind of thing. So consistency, doing things, we call them EDDs, everyday disciplines. What are the things that you need to do every day, no matter what? Larissa, thanks for the comments. Good to see you. Larissa's actually in Tampa as well. Rosie Jordan. Thanks for joining, Rosie. Good to see you on here. Appreciate it. And so that's what we're going after. So today is Wednesday. We're going to dive into some deeper sales marketing tactics. Actually, the name for today is how to add power to your sales and marketing. And I spelt it PAO for PAO. That's actually an interesting word. It's in Portuguese. Pão is bread. And that's how they pronounce it too. Pão. Pão. I can't do it. It's like pão. Sal, pão. Portuguese is a beautiful language. Kind of hard to learn. I tried for a few months. But pão means bread. So if you want to add more bread to your business, if you want to add more bread to the results you're getting from your sales and marketing, you're definitely going to want to check out today. So before we dive in on the content, just a reminder of the things we got going on over these 75 days. Speaking of bread, we want to freely distribute bread and food to those that are in need. So you can help us out by doing that by buying one of these Focus and Fire workshops. As I've mentioned many times, this is our flagship workshop. We do it with everybody we work with. If we do this on site with a client, it's easy $10,000, $15,000 depending on how long we're there. Virtually one-on-one $5,000 product, and then we have a recorded version, the do-it-yourself version for $2,000. and we've discounted that. Never have we discounted it ever before, but we're discounting it for these 75 days only to only $200. And then all the proceeds, so every dollar we get from that, from selling these Intent Company workshops, these Focus and Fire workshops, we're gonna give all of the money we receive to it to Feed the Hungry, which is an amazing organization. We've 95% of everything that they get, they give directly to food. That's an unbelievable percentage. So obviously a very well-run organization, and it's fantastic to see that. So yeah, so thank you guys. Oh yeah, what else we got on here? Let me go through the rest of the slides. We got join Intent Company group. So make sure you head over to intentcompany.com/live. You get links to all this stuff, but you can join our online membership platform called the Intent Company Group. Also have our WOW Campaign Blueprint, which is a fantastic tool if you already have customers. It's really how do you maximize the current relationships that you have to increase reorders, referrals, positive reviews. Awesome tool there. And we also have our customer journey assessment. So if you want to take a look at like, hey, how well are you doing customer journey driven marketing? Go over there, answer the questions, and we'll spit out a report for you. We're actually about to make some really cool advancements in this tool. It'll be even cooler coming out real soon. We'll actually demo that when those changes are in place. So yeah, so thank you guys. Appreciate you joining. I appreciate the consistency that you guys are showing by hopping on every day and watching. It's been awesome to see the support and hear just the kind words and different messages, and yeah, we really care. It's a personal passion of mine to see entrepreneurs thrive, and that means one, becoming an entrepreneur. So that's why most of the time I don't spend a lot of time helping people starting businesses, purely for the reason as running a marketing agency, it's not the most profitable client to have, someone who doesn't have money, doesn't have a business, doesn't know how to get going, right? But I love entrepreneurs, so I want to, using something like this, I can share some wisdom, some ideas, things that I've learned over the last 19 years of starting businesses, burying businesses, reviving businesses. The last 7 years now, we've been running Intent Company, and we're focused on helping purpose-driven brands grow. So it's a way to kind of pour into people that are wanting to start businesses, but also to get into the deeper aspects of everything revolving around your business. But today's especially, it's going to be around sales, marketing, success. And so let's dive in. So I want to share with you this idea. We call it the intent method. So it's the measurable system for defining, developing, and duplicating brand advocates. If you saw on my last Wednesday, we went through our automated advocacy machine, and on there we talked about the power of creating brand advocates. And that really is, to me, that should be the goal of all marketing, is to create brand advocates, to find them, to define them, to duplicate them. And so there's certain systems and things that we get involved in. We talked about the, kind of the advocacy machine and things like that. What I want to share with you right now is kind of like, whether you're doing advocacy marketing, lead generation, whatever marketing you're doing, this right here, this we're going to go over, we call it PAO, is like the amplifier. It's like the accelerator. So you could immediately look at everything you're doing from a sales and marketing perspective, and when you apply these three big ideas to it, you're going to immediately see an increase, an expansion in what you're doing. So PAO is an acronym for personalization, automation, and optimization. So these are really, if you think about it, every great marketing sales initiative is going to have elements of these three pieces. And you can always create more personalization, more automation, and more optimization. So it's not like you set it and forget it. It's kind of an ongoing process. But when you think about these three pieces, these are oftentimes very overlooked in most organizations. We don't take the time, because it takes time. You have to be very intentional. You have to be very intentional about what you're doing. And so brand intent, and actually the Focus and Fire workshop is really, and you'll see some slides in a second, really tackles these first three really well. The personalization. So that tool that we're selling for $200 to help feed the hungry. That is a fantastic tool for this first piece here. So here, let me get my laser pointer. Okay, so personalization. If you think about it, to create a great personalized, what do I mean by personalization? That means the more uniquely that you can speak to your clients, your customers in the sales and marketing process, the greater the outcomes you're going to get. You already know this to be true, right? Like if you do any level of sales, sitting across from somebody face to face and getting to talk to them, getting to know them is always going to be way more successful than a Zoom call, than trying to sell via a landing page or anything like that. So the more personalized you can be. So yes, that's actually, if you can sit across from your customers, it's going to be a great way to create a personalized connection, personalized offerings. But we can also apply this all through the process. So no matter if you only sell on your website, if you're sending emails, text messages, all those things, we can definitely be more and more personalized. But the question is, what are we actually personalizing? We need to actually know our customer. We need to know how they behave. We need to know what they're doing in order to provide a more personalized approach. And so we'll talk about that in just a second. Brand intent, customer intent, and then the customer journey map. Next piece is automation systems. And we'll dive into that a bit. And then optimization. How do we continue to see greater results? So personalization. All right. So, you'll hear often, and you probably have done this. What's your avatars? What's your your unique selling proposition? And that's great. You need those, and that's basically what I'm talking about. But there's kind of a deeper way that you can go into this. So like if you notice with this was our these are some slides from the workshops that we do, and if you think about it, most of the time when we talk about who's your avatar, you're usually talking about it in terms of demographics, right? You're usually thinking about it in terms of like what's their age and what gender are they, where do they live. But as you'll see in a second, psychographics, understanding how people behave, understanding why they make their decisions is way more important. The other side of this is brand intent. So you've got customer intent. What is the intentions of my customer? Who are they? What's their intentions? And then you have brand intent, which is basically what is your brand? What is your intent? What are you trying to achieve? What products are you trying to sell? What problems are you trying to solve? And when you can take those two things, the customer intent, brand intent, and you find that center place, that's where you're going to be the most fulfilled, the most productive, create the best results is when you find that with those two pieces meet together. And so let's take a look at each independently. So brand. What is your voice? In our workshop, we say something like this. We say, if your brand was a well-known personality, who would it be and why? And that's a really provocative question, right? It just really gets people thinking and everything. And we've had certain customers come back and say like, oh, we're like Indiana Jones. We're adventurous and we are, seeking. We go out and find the treasure for our customers or what have you. I've had somebody say that they're Forrest Gump because they're loyal and they're sincere. We've had some say like Frank Sinatra, like sophisticated but kind of edgy, or I guess he probably was in his day. Anyway, it's an interesting thing to think about because it now starts to personalize your brand. And if you think about the greatest brands out there, you think about the most recognizable brands, the Nikes, the Teslas, the Apple. They have a personality. They have a vibe, they have a personality, and it's in everything that they do. So that doesn't need to be just reserved for big businesses, right? What's your brand voice? What's your brand identity? If your brand was a well-known person, who would it be and why? The other thing you got to realize with your brand is not only what do you sell, but what's the benefit of what you sell? And then what's the benefit of what you sell? See, it's really easy for businesses today to get really caught up in the products and services that they deliver. You know, like, oh yeah, I do HVAC, I do accounting, I do marketing, we make tennis shoes, whatever the case may be. Like, it's very easy for you to sit there and say, oh yeah, here's the doohickey and the service that we do. But something that's very important to understand in all aspects of business, nobody actually buys what you sell. Like, nobody really buys. We always use the analogy of like a light bulb. Like, nobody buys a light bulb. They buy light. But then they don't even just buy light, they buy what the light gives them. The opportunity to do things at night, or to read their kid a bedtime story, or to cook dinner or whatever, right? Like, that's really what they're looking for. And so it's really important for you to understand what are the benefits, the deepest level of benefits that you have, that you provide, that your product provides, the benefit of the benefit of the benefit. And so that's important to realize, because then that's going to change all your marketing. Because now you're no longer saying like, buy my gizmo, buy my gadget, get 20% off. You're actually really serving people and solving problems. The other thing you got to understand about your business is, what is your economic driver? So what I mean is, see, revenue is actually an accounting exercise. Revenue is the result of all the things you did that at a given point in time, you say, we created this much revenue. But there's actually always a main key driver to revenue, meaning that when this metric increases or changes or what have you, that it gets, it's a foreshadow to economic success. So like, for instance, if you had a retail store, you know, and you're selling goods out of a store, it could be, your economic driver could be foot traffic. You know, if you've got maybe an online business, maybe it's the number of email subscribers or the number of social followers you have, or but you got to look at your business and you got to understand, like, wow, when this number goes up, this number goes up. And, you know, so again, email, social, site visits, downloads, app downloads, all these different things that happen. So, because it's easier to adjust that number. If you know that your revenue goes in proportion to your email addresses, then it becomes a lot easier being like, wait a minute, how can I get more email addresses to join my newsletter, right? That's a lot more actionable than saying like, oh, how can I go make more money? Because now you've come downstream a little bit and you realize that this metric is what impacts upstream, and now you have a lot more opportunity and flexibility, or, you know, you can be more creative with how you push on that economic driver. And then number 4, what we've been talking about is your unique marketable position, or your unique selling position, whatever you want to call it. But it's basically, what is the unique thing that you do better than anyone else? It is your thing. You are uniquely, and it's amazing because you don't realize this, but every single business should have a power statement that they are absolutely the best in the world at this thing. And you might be like, well, that's a grand, you know, statement. But if you don't think you can be best in the world at it, you haven't defined it in a more detailed way. So for instance, like, let's say accountant, we just said that phrase, right? Like, for you to say I'm the best accountant in the world, or we have the best accounting firm in the world, yeah, that's a bold statement. But you could say I'm the best accounting firm in DFW. Okay, even that might be a bold statement. You could say we're the best accounting firm for small businesses that focus on e-commerce in the DFW area. Ooh, okay, now all of a sudden you are really zooming in, and you can now actually say, like, yes, we're the best in the world at that. So now you know your unique thing, the thing that you do in the world, your unique value better than anybody else in the world. So that way, when you're selling to e-commerce brands in the DFW area, they come to you because you are the number one in that situation. So that's the brand. So let's talk now about the customer. As I mentioned earlier, it's most of the time when we think about building customer avatars, the traditional go-to is what is the age, what's the gender, what urbanicity, family, not family, college degree, not college degree. And I would say that information is of some importance, right? Especially too, like when you're building ads, maybe in Facebook, things like that. Like you can use some of those details, and it's kind of helpful. But I would say way more important than demographics is psychographics. Psychographics. How does your best customer make decisions? What do they believe to be important? What are their interests? What do they like? What are they motivated by? What do they desire? Those things are way more important than demographics. If I can understand the buying motivation of my customers, the true problems they're trying to solve, the emotions that are attached to it, then it's going to be way easier for me to go back on my other side and say, here's our Bob, here's what we do best in the world, here's the benefit of the benefit of the benefit, it matches your core psychographics, and that's going to get people to be way more motivated to take action. So demographics, psychographics, personality profile. Here's a really interesting one. This is kind of like double advanced 2.0. So one thing we've done, for some of our bigger customers that are really on board with understanding this type of detail, is we'll get like a pool of maybe their best customers, and we'll ask them to take like a personality profile, maybe like a 16 personalities, a Myers-Briggs type thing, and all of a sudden you realize like, wow, look at out of all of our customer base, most of our customers fit into 2 personality profiles. Well, those personality profiles could be a huge difference. Like, there's certain people, especially like you think like the type A personalities, people who are like business executives, CEOs, owners. When we think of them, what do they tend to be like? Not all, but what do they tend to be like? Driven, give me the details. I want bullet point steps. I don't want the big narrative. I don't want the big story. Get to the point. Well, if 80% of your customers are that type of personality, what should your emails look like? What should your videos look like? What should your sales pitch be like? You can personalize your communication to that individual, and now you're giving them messaging they're more likely to adopt. They're more likely to resonate with. You may have customers that are wildly different. Right? You might have different pockets. Well, as we're going to talk about next with automation, you could actually do things where you could mark in your CRM the personality profile of the person that you're trying to message to, and dependent on what personality profile they have, you could send them a completely different set of emails. Emails talking about the same thing, trying to get them to do the same thing, but with a completely different messaging based on who that person is. And that's where these 3 things come together: personalization, automation, optimization. That's a big one if you're going to get really serious about this. And then likewise, learning style. Now, it might be difficult to figure out like, oh yeah, well, Jane on my email list is more of a visual learner than an auditory or a kinesthetic. But one thing you can do is you could actually provide with all of your information all 3 learning styles. So you got auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. And what do I mean by that? What if your landing pages had videos, which is visual, written text, which is actually audible because they're hearing their voice when they're reading the text? And then what if you gave them a workshop or like little actions to do? They had to maybe move things around, or they had to fill out like a calculator or do something, fill out a worksheet. Now you're hitting all 3 of those. And then you could actually even test that data to say, wow, every time I send Jane an email, she always watches the video. Or Steve never watches the video, but he always scrolls all the way down, so that gives me the insight that he's actually reading everything, so he's more auditory. So now when I have that information, I could then send information that's more applicable to the individual. All right, so we've talked a ton about focus and fire. our key flagship workshop. This is what it looks like in the back end of our system. We've got kind of our online system. We've got 5 days. These are all of our courses. And this is the product that we use to help people define everything we just do. We walk them right through the workshop, help them figure out exactly who their brand intent is, their customer intent, and then map that out in a journey. Right? If you know who your best customers are, you know these different pieces. Now, how do you get them to be aware? How do you get them to have affinity like you? How do you get them to buy? How do you get them to turn into advocates? And so that's what the whole Focus and Fire workshop is. We have videos, text, workshops, kind of follow along process. And so that's that tool. So again, during those 75 days, shameless plug here, it's not $2,000, it's $200. And it will never be that price ever again. And we give all the money over to Feed the Hungry. So check it out. All right. Moving on to automation. The simplest way to describe automation is creating logic, technology that helps move things down the road in a way that I think if you describe it like this, if this happens, then do that. If this happens, then do that. If this happens, then do that. So if you follow this if this, then that methodology, you can constantly be moving things down the road and you're doing it without your intervention. Now, let me, here, let's switch over to another tab real quick. Excuse me. All right, so let me increase this a little bit. So this is the automation builder in the Intent Company app software. So what you want to think about when you're building automation is that anything that has a rhythm to it, anything that has a process of like, every time somebody opts in for my email, I want to send opts in for our newsletter, I want to send these 3 emails, right? So that is something where instead of like you get somebody, let's say it hits your contact us page, very common. Everybody has a contact us page, and then it maybe right now the info forwards over to somebody on your team, and then they're responsible for following up. Well, like things fall through the cracks. What if they do it on a Friday and Monday's a holiday, and like all this stuff happens. So simple to just create an automation. So in that particular instance, let's just say, form submitted. So when they submit this form, what do I want to do? Oh, well, I want to, let's say, send an email. And obviously I don't have all my templates in here. Let me just put that in there. Send an email. What if they left a phone number? How about also a text message? So you can send a text message. What about, they fill out the form, they got this and that, but what if you did want somebody internally to be notified so they could follow up? Well, let's also create a task for someone. Let's create a task. Let's say, hey, follow up. You can assign it to someone, make it due in 2 days, put in some text. And so as soon as this form's submitted, you could be automatically contacting the person who did it. You could be creating a task for the person that you want to follow up. And then you could even create more automation off the task. Let's say you now send this person whose task it's assigned to, you could send them follow-up reminders to make sure they're doing it until it's actually completed. And after they complete the task, which we'd have to build another automation for it because it's a different trigger, we'd have to do the task completed trigger. So after task was completed, you could then trigger another set of communication. So you can build, it's unbelievable. I would say with most businesses I work with, it's easy. 20-25% of all the things that most of their team is doing, you could just put on autopilot. You could totally automate many things of what they're doing. And so you want to think processes. What are all the processes? I think I mentioned this yesterday. Maybe it wasn't yesterday. But I talked about how one of the problems you have in an organization is you hire a really good person. They're responsible for, like, let's say your client onboarding. They're responsible for your billing, whatever. Sharp people, good at what they do. They build their own inherent system. They build their own process. They build their own system. And then out of that system, they're the only ones who know it. They're the only ones who know that process. And so one way that we found to help create more automation and more consistency across the board is to do kind of like an interview session with all your key people and say, like, hey, what are the top 10 things that you spend most of your time doing? Have them listed out. Inside there, you're going to totally find processes. And then say, okay, this thing here, what are the steps that you do to accomplish this task? Have them detailed it out. And from there, you're already going to see that there's rhythm, that there's a routine. And you can either, one, take all of it off of their plate with building an automation. More likely what's going to happen is you're using automation to take elements of what they're doing off of their plate and also to remind them to make sure they're doing the appropriate things at the right time. So I don't know if you have this. This would be like, this is considered standard operating procedures, right? Do you have standard operating procedures for the majority of the things that you do on a regular basis? If you don't, you should. Remember, systems scale, people don't. So you need to have the majority of the things that you do on a regular basis. You have to have standard operating procedures. And when you look at those standard operating procedures, your SOPs, you're going to find that a vast, I don't want to say the majority, but much of what you are doing can be either managed, maintained, or even done with some technology, with some automation. Now, my viewpoint on automation, I feel like there's people who take automation too far, where like they want to build a business that's fully automated. They never want to talk to a customer. They want everything to just be like this system that runs. I feel like that's too far. For me, I want to use automation so that I have a system that does take a lot of the minutia off our plate. Two, is maintaining that our SOPs are being done. So the task thing is big. Making sure that Jane gets the task, and when it's done, it checks the box, because now you have a history of what got done, the SOPs, everything. And then three, I want to save as much time as possible so that my people can do what only they uniquely can do, that they're operating out of their superpower. Nobody wants to do minutia. It's amazing. We've worked in so many organizations where we've done things like this, where we've taken away a lot of the, we've taken away so much of the stuff to do, and it's just like improves morale in a department, in a company so much, because now like people are able to like operate out of their unique superpowers. They're able to do what they do best. They're able to be more human element. I mean, that's the other thing too. Let's get the minutia off the plate so you can get your people talking to real people, engaging, being creative, doing human-only activity. So what are the top 10 things that you do on a regular basis? What are the standard operating procedures for those things that you're doing? And then what kind of automation could you do to make it happen? Now, our system this isn't the only automation platform in the world. It's not the tool that automates everything, but let me just give you an idea of what you could automate. So again, you want to think, if this happens, then that. So you got to think of, one, what's the trigger? And then after that trigger occurs, what do you want to do with that trigger? So here's the following triggers that can happen in our automation system. So a birthday reminder, some data changed on a contact, there was a tag added to a contact, a custom date was applied, a note was added, note changed, task added, task reminder, task completed. So again, that's really good for managing those SOPs, right? Like when a task is completed, what do you do next? Right? And so other things, a call status changed, an email event happened, a customer replied to something, a form was submitted, a survey was submitted, a link was clicked, somebody filled out a form on Facebook, TikTok, something happened with our video tracking, which means you can track how long a video is watched, and once it hits a certain level. Think about that for your sales. What if you had in your marketing like this video that gave like a demo, and every time somebody watches 3 minutes of that video, it then triggers your salesperson to then pick up the phone and call and say, hey, saw that you watched that video. I'd love to answer any questions you might have. Twilio validation error. LinkedIn, appointments changed. Your sales pipeline opportunities changed. Memberships changed. Payments. All of these things. So all of these things are triggers, and then when one of these things happens in some array, then you can initiate an action. And what could that be? Update your contact data, send email, send SMSs, make a phone call, leave a voicemail, message on social media, ask for a review. It's really unbelievable. Appointments, send an appointment, update an appointment, all of these things. So pretty fancy stuff in there. So let's go back to our presentation. All right, let's go back to the third. So we've got personalization. And now do you see how the personalization and automation totally sync up together? Right? Like if I know more about who they are and how they behave, then I can use those behavior signals to then trigger an automation. Right? We call that behavioral automation. So the more I know who they are, what they want, what they're doing, I can now pull that in to trigger automation to happen to create a more reliable result. All right, optimization. You gotta think. I know I've said this before on here, and I say it all the time, and it's so true though. If you think about it, the number one thing that stops people from being successful is not starting. The fear of the unknown, the lies you tell you about yourself about why you can or can't do certain things, the analysis paralysis, all those different phrases. And the first thing you got to start off with is just have an approach. You know what? I think if I do 75 lives, then over time I'm going to get people watching videos. They're going to opt in for some stuff, and then I'll send off some emails and this. Okay, that's your strategy. The next thing you got to do is actually act. Implement what you said that you thought you got to do. Have a strategy, implement it, and then measure those results. Measure the results you had, and then let the data from the measurement impact your strategy, and then let the strategy dictate your actions, and then let your actions get more data, and then just never stop, never stop, never stop, never stop. And if you do that, you're going to what's called climb the ladder. Climb the ladder. So to climb the ladder means you basically have a control, which means that I have a set way that I've done things, and this set way that I've done things has got a certain result over time. And then I want to switch it up. So maybe instead of sending one email after someone opts in for a form, I'm going to send 3 emails. And in that third email, I'm going to have a link to my calendar. It's an idea. Well, make the idea and then send 50% of what you had for that idea one direction, and then 50% the other direction. And then when you get enough data, look and say, which one works better? Which of these 2 works better? And then when you have one that works better, that now becomes the new control. And then what do? You go and try to beat that one. So you're always trying to what they call beat the control. And you can do this across everything. The emails you send, your sales pipeline, your follow-up process, your sales script, your onboarding delivery, everything in your business, you can test and you can improve, you can optimize. And then you can really one of the other reasons why I love automation, because all 3 of these things work together. One of the reasons I love about automation is automation creates a consistency. If I build an automation that this happens, this happens, this happens, it's set, it happens. So if I test that flow versus a new flow, I can see which one works better, and then I can, again, promote to the control and then always try to beat the control. And if I do that, I'm going to get more of the right result, deliver better customer experience, give people more of what they want, make more money, make the process so easier. So you've got to optimize. Everything you're doing, you got to optimize. But systems are easier to optimize than haphazard efforts, obviously. If you're always doing things a little different, or Jane's the only person who knows how to do that, how do you optimize it? So you got to create the system, you got to create the process, and then you got to implement that process and test the process. There's a tool that we team up with and we implement with a lot of our clients called True Conversion. And this is where you put code on your website and you can track everything in your website. How long do people come? How long do they scroll? Heat maps. Like what pages do they click on? Exit surveys, all those things. You don't need that stuff, but I'll tell you what, having some tools like this, and this is one of the things that we do, we implement these tools, we implement these tests and everything else for our clients. But having these things can give you the data necessary for you to know how to beat the control, how to have a continual improvement. So personalization, automation, optimization. PAO, adding power to your business. So I want you to think about what are you currently doing now for marketing, what are you currently doing for sales, and how could you create more personalization, more automation, and more all three, and you do them all well, it's unbelievable. I mean, you can like this. You want to find out how do you 2x, how do you 5x, how do you 10x things? Start here. Take what you've already been working on. Don't reinvent the wheel. Apply this power to it and see where it goes. So again, a great place to start would be in our Focus and Fire workshop. And I am pitching it, but it's only $200. We're giving all the proceeds to feed the hungry. So I would definitely check that out as a great place to start with your personalization efforts. So that was it for today. PAO, personalization, automation, optimization, adding it to your business. This is a fantastic tool, fantastic thing to get into. So I really appreciate you guys, appreciate everybody who's joining. I thank you guys for your consistency and for sharing, liking, doing all this stuff. I'd love to hear too. If you're implementing any of the stuff we're talking about, I'd love to hear your testimonies and in the feedback of what's happening. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central Time for another 75 Live. So until tomorrow, you guys have an amazing day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.